Welcome, everybody. I think before I will jump into some of our introductions for this evening, I would love to invite Amalia, if you're available, to give us a quick grounding this evening. We would be extremely grateful.
Absolutely. Thank you. It's beautiful to see everyone, such a big group. Thank you so much for coming. This is going to be such a special day. I'm honored to be here guiding you through. We're going to do a grounding practice today. So, wherever you are in the world, and this is just a moment built into probably a busy day, time for you to pause and reconnect with your breath, tune into your body with care a little bit. Today, we'll focus on anchoring our awareness in our body and on our breath. So, you can use a practice like this anytime you're feeling stressed or pulled in many directions. You can spend 10 minutes a day or simply 1 or 2 minutes. Even a single intentional breath and body scan holds such power to help calm your nervous system in a time of stress. So, let's go ahead and begin. Let's go ahead and make ourselves comfortable, whatever that means to you right now. You only have to hear my voice. You don't have to look at the screen. So you can close your eyes if that feels comfortable. You can lie down if you want to. But go ahead and take 3 deep, nourishing breaths. So in through your nose and then out through your mouth. Nice deep breath in through your nose. You want to make an audible sigh out your mouth. That's perfectly fine. You can move and stretch your body any way you need to as you're exhaling. Sometimes that feels really good. Now I'll invite you to gently bring your awareness to your whole body. Notice any sensations that stand out, um, areas of ease or tension or emotions. So simply observe without needing to change anything. And then continue to breathe. Beautiful. I'm going to give you a cue, and after each cue, simply breathe and notice. Again, without judgment, without needing to fix. Allow a sense of gentle openness and curiosity to unfold. So bring your awareness down to your feet. Feel your feet connecting with the ground beneath you. And from there, we'll slowly scan upward. Bring your awareness into your legs. Nice deep breaths. Bring your awareness into your hips. A deep breath here. And now let your awareness travel to your belly and lower back. Up a little ways to your chest and torso, your shoulders. Continue to breathe. Bring your awareness to your arms, all the way down your arms into your wrists and hands. And then up to your neck. And finally up to your head. And just continue to breathe. And now notice if any areas stood out to you. Again, sensations, points of focus, even emotions. And if there was 1 or 2 or even 3, pick one. Bring your breath to that place or those places. Just gently direct your breath to lower back, neck, wherever it may have been. And takes 3 slow, deep breaths into this area or areas. Nice deep breath in and a long, slow exhalation. Do this a few times on your own. Again, we're not forcing or fixing. We're simply letting the power of our breath and our awareness soften and support whatever is there. One more deep breath. And now if you'll feel your whole body again, feel the points of contact beneath you, your seat, your feet, maybe your hands resting. Feel yourself grounded and supported by the earth. Notice your breath moving in and through you. And simply notice if anything has shifted, even a little, by giving yourself this moment of connection. When you're ready, you can bring some movement into your hands. You can stretch. You can gently open your eyes. I thank you for your participation, for grounding with me and in community today. The space we intentionally create together holds deep potential for healing and gently strengthening your resilience. So take gentle care of yourself and all the beings around you. And I hope you truly enjoy the rest of our program today. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Amalia. That was wonderful, as always. Welcome, everybody. It's my pleasure to be here with you all today. For those of you I haven't met, my name is Dr. Steve Krusniski, and I am a part of the Care for the Healer Discovery team. And yeah, really grateful to have you all in attendance this evening. I think this is our third or fourth now grief ritual as a community. And I've really enjoyed what they brought out in our community. So I'm yeah, very excited to see some new faces here as well. And of course, some of the rest of our community here with us this evening as well. Before we move into our scheduled programming for this evening, just a note about some of our upcoming events, which I'll provide some links in the chat if you're interested. But primarily, we'll be hosting the World Congress on Planetary Health from June 16th to 22nd. And this will include quite a few different workshops and lectures. So a lot of exciting content that is coming together. So I encourage you all to check out some of the links that I've put in the chat there. And any questions, please let us know at the end. Okay, so it is my honor to introduce our facilitator for this evening, Deborah Rossman. A little bit about Deborah. So beautifully entangled with nature, spirit, and non-human animals, Deborah traverses the wild terrain of soul as a somatic archaeologist, grief practitioner, grief and nature ritualist, and heart activist. Deborah has been on a lifelong journey exploring the emotions and somatic language of grief, her own, her clients, and that of non-human animals. She has dedicated her life to holding space for the deepest sorrows of others. Deborah is the editor and designer of the multi-award-winning anthology, The Chimpanzee Chronicles, Stories of Heartbreak and Hope from Behind the Bars, which has garnered 15 national awards for Best Narrative Nonfiction, New Nonfiction, Anthology, and Animal Nature books. In addition to working as a grief practitioner, Deborah is a story guide and book midwife, supporting clients in writing memoirs and nonfiction books that orient readers towards a more inclusive humanity. Deborah lives in the high desert mountains of New Mexico, and she is the founder of Sacred Sorrowing, Voices for Wild Souls in Story Power. So it's been my pleasure to get to know Deborah virtually over these past couple of years. And she so generously offered to connect with our community this evening to take us through a grief ritual and discuss some of the foundations of grief as well. So thank you again for being here. But if anything comes up, just please let us know in the chat as well. I do want to mention throughout this practice, as the topic of grief, some of the things that we'll be exploring can be heavy topics. And so there is an extra space, an added virtual space, or a talk rooms. There's talk room 1 and 2. If you feel like stepping out and maybe the material is touching you in a certain way, know that myself and Amalia are here and present at any time. You can message us in the chat, or you can move into that room and we'll be watching for that as well through the presentation. Okay. So without any more to say at the moment, let me pass it to Deborah. And again, thank you, Deborah, for being with us here this evening.
Thank you, Steve. I just love you. And this organization is amazing. So it's really an honor to be here. So where do I begin? Before I got into the healing arts, and I've been in the healing arts for 37 years. That sounds like a long time, but I'm 71, so been doing this for a while. But before that, I was a professional cook in New York City, and then I owned a catering business. And I spent 10 years in, I lived in New York City with this event planning business. And I hired a baby chimp for a client. I actually have a picture. I can't use this picture on Facebook because it gives people the wrong idea. But anyway. So I hired a baby chimp for a client. The chimp came in, her name was Casey. She was about 2 years old. And she had roller skates on, a diaper, some clothes, and was like a 2-year-old. And I was the most excited about it, I just went ballistic because this was a dream come true for me to hold a chimpanzee. I've always loved primates, so monkeys and great apes. So party ended, chimp went home, and I never thought about it again. Until many years later, when I moved here, and I had this really, really intense dream with a chimp in it. And I woke up and I just was beside myself. And then I went online to start doing research on what's happening to chimps. I had absolutely no idea. And I was horrified. I mean, really horrified. And then, well, because I was reading about the research, they were research subjects and the horrific, really horrific abuse and their use in Hollywood as actors. And, they were kept as pets, and none of this was good for that chimpanzee. And then I remembered Casey, and I ran into the bedroom and I looked for, cardboard box, and I took it out, and I had about 20 pictures of the chimp, of Casey at that party. And I just started crying, like really intensely, like I couldn't catch my breath, kind of crying. And that was the moment I woke up, because I realized I was part of the problem in hiring a chimp. And I made a vow right then and there, 25 years ago, to be part of the solution. And I've never given up. I've been advocating for chimps for 25 years. I did schools talking about, compassion with kids. I did fundraising for chimp sanctuaries. And it was my grief about what the chimps went through. It was my grief that was driving me. was my grief that led me to start my book, which, by the way, took me 13 years. While I was writing it, I'm like, oh, no one's going to care about this. And maybe all the chimps are going to be freed and life's going to be beautiful. And it's still to this day. It was published June 2020, right after lockdown, COVID lockdown. And it's still relevant today. So over the past few years, I've been shifting my work from working with people with all kinds of trauma, historical amnesia, intergenerational trauma, to working with people who have lost their companion animals. So I feel really like that's my soul work, my soul passion. And yeah, I had experience with Frida. Oh, I adopted a little how many years ago? I can't think, but she's gone now, about 2.5 years. And I adopted her when she was 11 and a half. And I thought I was getting a healthy little dog, and it was, she was not. And she was sick 3.5 of the 4 years that I had her. So it ended up that finally she was diagnosed with polycythemia vera. So it, turned out giving her, she was just really sick, but she was still vital. And the day came when she was really having trouble. And we go to the vet. We practically lived at the vet because she had to, get all kinds of treatments. Anyway, it was not a good euthanasia experience. I hadn't slept. My vet wasn't there that day. I was pushed into euthanasia. And it was hard. It was really hard. It was that experience, because I was thinking about my first dog that I had for 17.5 years. And it was a gorgeous experience with euthanasia. She actually would have died, in a few hours or the next day. But still, it was a beautiful experience with euthanasia. So that really made that experience with Frida really made me want to shift what I'm doing. Because I can give you a little, like a short overview of grief. Like, what is it? I mean, simply, it's just the pain, right, that we feel when anyone or anything we have loved died. We live in a death and grief phobic culture. And it's so many people are disconnected from feeling sad, feeling grief. People take antidepressants because they're feeling sad. Nobody wants to go into their bodies and feel what's going on. I believe that grieving is soul medicine, and we can all really learn how to grieve well. And I know that the other side of grief is great joy, but we have to go through it. I lived it, so I can tell you it's true. So there are many other kinds of losses that we grieve. Francis Weller, who is a psychotherapist who has been working with grief for a zillion years, I love him, and he has an amazing book out called The Wild Edge of Sorrow. I did a convivium with him for 2+ years. Every Wednesday we would meet. And I learned so much. And then I did the training with him. It was 5 months or 6 months of the grief ritual. I think it was called grief ritual leadership training. So I have been working with grief for a long time, but it was so rich. So I loved it. And everybody that comes in contact with Francis loves him. So he came up with the 6 gates of grief. First one, everything we love, we will lose. Humans, non-humans, relationships, our health, our hair. I mean, everything that we love, we end up losing. So that's the first gate. The second gate is parts of us that have not known love. That's a real big one for me. The third gate is the sorrows of the world. And boy, we are sorrowing with what's going on right now in the world in so many ways. And this is grief over the indifference and the violence and, the exploitation of all beings in the natural world. The fourth gate is what we expected and did not receive. It could be a job, but it's real, the deeper meaning is like loss of connection and loss of village. And so many of us, including me, up until like not that many years ago, I didn't realize that I was missing community, meaning a real tribe. So yeah, what we expected and did not receive. The fifth one is ancestral grief. That is all the sorrows and all the losses that our ancestors carried and didn't work through was passed down to the next generation and the next generation and the next generation. So there's so much sorrow, ancestral grief living in our bodies, the sorrow of our blood lineages. And then the sixth gate is the harms we've done, the harms we've caused directly or through complicity. So there are so many expressions also of sorrow, of grief. We all think of being sad, but overwhelm is an expression. Anxiety, even confusion, exhaustion, anger, rage, depression, shock. Many, many ways to, express grief. And then there are some different kinds of grief. So disenfranchised grief or hidden grief. It's grief that's not acknowledged by someone else or yourself. And it's sort of a grief that's devalued. And then anticipatory grief. Now, this is the grief I think that all veterinarians and people in the vet world are dealing with. You're really confronted with this because it happens, this kind of anticipatory grief. You're dealing with an impending death. So then there's complex grief, or it's also called complicated grief. And that happens when there have been so many losses, so much grief that's happened really quickly or even over the years, but the grief that's not been felt and or hasn't been grieved properly. So all that pile up. And then if you go to a therapist, it's complex because it's loaded. There's so much there. Then there's traumatic grief, which a dog gets hit by a car and dies. Your father has a heart attack I mean, something that happens quickly and the body goes into shock. And there's that kind of grief to begin with. It's called traumatic grief. And then the last one is delayed grief. There are a lot of people who are stoic and not able to feel any emotions around anything, including loss. So it eventually surfaces, and we're carrying it all in our body. So eventually it's going to come out, and sometimes not in healthy ways. But sometimes there's a good reason. And consciously, somebody can decide to delay their grief and then come back to it another time. So grief is really isolating. It can be really isolating and disorienting. There's no time limit. I still well up. I mean, my little Lily has been gone since April 30th, 2009, and I can cry and then get into some grief. It's just, but I've learned, how to just live with that and be with it, because it's fine. It just means how much I loved her. So there's a rhythm, there is a rhythm to each person's grief. And each person has to follow that. There's something so beautiful, really, about that. And also to really understand, as doctors and practitioners, that death changes our patterns. Sometimes our patterns of relationships and our identities. I mean, in the human world, it's like an elder becomes an ancestor, a wife becomes a widow, a pet mom becomes a mourning pet mom and just doesn't want to go on. It's so finding kindness and deep compassion for yourself and your clients is so important. I think the last thing I'll say is to really allow yourself to grieve is a show of strength. But it takes intention to be able to engage with it, because it's not easy to stay with. It's really intimate work, but it's so worth it. It's freeing on the other side, as I mentioned before, and it leaves us with a heart that's so wide open and a deeper compassion for ourselves and others, including our clients. So beautiful. So my intention is to build a safe container for us to take a journey into the depth of our own relationship with grief and hold each other in empathy, suffering, joy. So this is a good time to get your candle, your matches, your stone, and a cup or a bowl of water.